Everyone knows about the Colosseum, and it's clear that one side looks much nicer than the other, but why did half of this famous Roman amphitheater get destroyed? This is a great chance to explore those questions about ancient Greece and Rome that might have confused you in school. In today's video, I'll discuss the Colosseum's history during the Middle Ages and Renaissance and what led to its destruction. But before then, let's take a brief look at how the Colosseum came about. In 64 CE, Emperor Nero constructed what he modestly called the Golden Palace, displacing many ordinary Romans in the process. His actions were met with discontent. Following Nero's death, the empire saw 4 corrupt emperors before Vespasian took power in 69 CE. Vespasian aimed to restore faith in government by adopting a modest lifestyle and prioritizing the well-being of Rome's citizens. Around 70 CE, Vespasian pledged to construct a public amphitheater for gladiator tournaments. Symbolically, he opted to build it on the site of Nero's Golden Palace. After a decade of construction, in 80 CE, Vespasian's son, Emperor Titus, inaugurated the Colosseum with a 100-day festival of games. Vespasian opted to erect the Colosseum on the former site of a lake within Nero's Golden Palace's garden. The ambitious project required extensive drainage efforts, diverting rivers and streams 26 feet below the surface. To ensure stability, the concrete foundations were deeply embedded. The excavated soil was cleverly repurposed to elevate the land surrounding the structure by 23 feet, altering the perspective for spectators who now looked up at the Colosseum. However, due to modern landscape changes, the Colosseum now sits at ground level. The Colosseum's travertine blocks were sourced from Albulae, near present-day Tivoli, approximately 20 miles from the construction site. To streamline transportation, the Romans constructed a dedicated road for hauling the stones. Each cart carried 30 to 50 stones, with historians estimating a staggering 240,000 carts were used in total. The construction effort involved an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 individuals, primarily slaves. The Roman Empire revolutionized construction with the use of concrete, enabling the creation of larger and more resilient edifices than ever before. Utilizing concrete, the Colosseum's vaults and arches achieved a spacious interior without compromising structural integrity. So what led to the destruction of the Colosseum? Whether you visited Rome or not, you might have seen in pictures that parts of the ancient Colosseum are missing. Sadly, that's true. Centuries ago, the monument lost its original shape. Despite this, the Colosseum has retained its charm and beauty, still captivating history buffs and general visitors alike. How did the Colosseum deteriorate over time? The Colosseum, or the Flavian Amphitheater, endured turbulent times centuries before its eventual deterioration. As the glorious Roman imperial age ended, efforts were made to revive this monumental landmark. Consequently, the Colosseum was initially abandoned and later repurposed as a graveyard during the Middle Ages. Over the years, Roman citizens began utilizing the Colosseum's marble to construct new buildings across the city. Individuals were permitted to extract significant quantities of marble from the landmark, resulting in its appearance of being mutilated even before the events that ultimately led to its deterioration. For nearly 500 years, the Colosseum stood as the Roman Empire's grandest arena. Emperors sponsored remarkable spectacles to amaze and entertain the Roman populace. Exotic animals from distant lands were hunted with lavish spears, bears mauled criminals, and intricate mythological dramas unfolded. The empire's most renowned gladiators clashed on the blood-soaked sands, and much more. Throughout its 500 years of use, the Colosseum underwent numerous renovations. One of the most significant occurred in the early 3rd century when a fire ravaged the entire upper seating deck. It took the emperor 5 years to restore the structure, and signs of hurried repairs can still be seen along the north wall. Subsequently, several earthquakes inflicted severe damage that was never wholly remedied. The events hosted at the Colosseum evolved. The most extravagant spectacles naturally occurred during the peak of the empire. For instance, to commemorate his triumph in Dacia, Trajan organized an astounding 23 days of games featuring 5,000 pairs of gladiators and the slaughter of 11,000 animals. However, from the mid-3rd century onwards, the quality of the games began to decline. The later emperors were less affluent and more preoccupied than those before them, often investing their time and resources outside Rome. Additionally, the scarcity of exotic animals due to overhunting and the increasing cost of gladiators contributed to the spectacle's decline. Eventually, the gladiatorial contests ceased entirely. According to a later legend, a monk intervened in an arena, attempting to halt a gladiator from fatally striking his adversary. In response, the furious spectators stoned the monk to death. According to legend, upon learning of the monk's death, the emperor supposedly ended the gladiatorial contest. However, the reality was likely less sensational. While Christian disapproval played a role in the decline, the cessation of imperial funding appears equally significant. Regardless of the cause, the last gladiatorial fights occurred in the Colosseum in the early 5th century. However, the beast hunts persisted, lasting even longer than the Western Roman Empire. The final hunts were sponsored by the barbarian kings who succeeded the emperors. Yet, these kings had little interest in the games, particularly as it became increasingly challenging to justify holding them for Rome's dwindling population. The last recorded hunts in the Colosseum occurred in the year 523. Within a few centuries, the true purpose of the Colosseum became obscured. Some believed it was once a sun temple topped with a massive golden dome, while others thought it served as a temple honoring all the gods with a colossal statue of Jupiter at its center. The most peculiar story centered on the Roman poet Virgil, who medieval legends portrayed as a powerful magician. According to these stories, Virgil enlisted the aid of demons to construct the Colosseum and used it as a stage for necromancy. The confusion surrounding the Colosseum's purpose was partly due to its already dilapidated state at the onset of the Middle Ages, with its gradual decay continuing over the next 1,000 years. Earthquakes played a significant role in its deterioration. Being a tall structure made of masonry, the Colosseum was prone to seismic damage, especially in certain areas due to geological factors. Unlike the north side, where the massive concrete foundations reach bedrock, the south rests on unstable, waterlogged sediment. This unstable foundation exacerbated the impact of earthquakes, ultimately leading to the collapse of half of the structure. However, the greatest threats to the Colosseum came from the Romans themselves. The structure's walls were constructed from travertine, a high-quality limestone, while its seats were crafted from marble, both highly coveted materials. These stones were easy to repurpose and could also be burned in kilns to produce lime for mortar. The pillaging of the Colosseum stone commenced before the arena's final games and persisted on a large scale for over a millennium. Yet, the Colosseum served as more than just a source of building materials. Throughout the Middle Ages, the ruinous vaults and passages became home to hundreds of people. Among these dwellers were households complete with courtyards and gardens, shops with wooden awnings and storage lofts, stables, churches, and at one point, even a fully fledged fortified palace. Remarkably, many of these inhabitants were lime burners, spending their days dismantling the very structure they resided in. Unfortunately, their activities made the Colosseum an increasingly unsuitable place for habitation. In 1349, an earthquake devastated the entire southern half of the Colosseum's circuit wall, creating a massive mound of debris known as the Colosseum's thigh. Over the following 4 centuries, this mound supplied the stone for half of the churches built during the Renaissance era in Rome. In 1452, a single dynamic contractor alone removed over 2,500 cartloads of stone from the site. After enduring centuries of earthquakes and plundering, it might be surprising that any part of the Colosseum still stands. However, as mentioned earlier, a significant portion of the structure was safeguarded. The north side of the Colosseum was inherently less vulnerable to earthquake damage. Furthermore, it was shielded from being dismantled by scavengers thanks to the intervention of the popes. The north side of the Colosseum happened to align with the processional route linking the Lateran Palace to the Vatican. The popes appear to have intentionally conserved this section of the Colosseum as a grand backdrop for their processions. While not every pope agreed with this decision, with Pius V suggesting demolishing the arena's remains as late as the 16th century, most pontiffs thankfully advocated for preserving this fragment of Rome's most illustrious ancient structure. So that's how we ended up with half of the Colosseum, saved by both earthquakes and the Pope's intervention. What do you think of the Colosseum, and what's your most remarkable view of it? We would like to hear from you in the comments. In the meantime, as always, thank you for watching. See you in the following video.